She broke down when I disclosed my dishonest fiancée and her accomplice during our wedding. Okay, I'll tell you how my wedding ended abruptly as I said my vows. Thus, ZO staff introduced me to my fiancé. I was closest to David, one of our buddies. I asked him to be my best man because I liked that he got along with the female I started seeing and proposed to. After learning, my fiancé was thrilled and believed it was the appropriate choice. Her excitement made me question, but she was his friend, so I didn't care. Skip to the week before the wedding. My fiancée was joyful and often on her phone. She seemed busy with wedding planning. As long as it made her happy, I didn't mind when she paused and asked me about minor decisions. Now that I know, she may have lied to stop me from believing she was talking to my best man. Our bachelor party was that night, which I thought cool. When he called to cancel my party, I was devastated. My best friend had planned it. He told me he had to be with his mother after she was hospitalized unexpectedly. I should have given him the benefit of the doubt, right? Sorry for being so, becoming cynical and mistrust him. Okay, I had several friends that night. Our organization is busy. After playing basketball outside, we washed up before going to a nice downtown pub. I felt like a king and hoped my fiancé did too. While living together, we delayed being close until after the wedding, which is uncommon. Truthfully, it was harder than expected. We switched sleeping on the living room pull-out bed every night. I returned from the party to find my fiancé asleep in our bed, looking like an angel who had fun. I looked around after putting her in and found a gold cufflink on the floor next to the bed. Only one set of cufflinks varied from the one I discovered, and my girlfriend had none. It made me wonder. Could this mean another man was in our bedroom? I started stroking my neck and face when annoyed. My fiancé's phone buzzed as I became concerned. Even though it vibrated, I could hear it on the nightstand. I observed anything about my conversation with my best buddy in her messages. I last saw his SMS at 9 p.m. 4 hours ago. As I scrolled up, I felt it was odd that she invited him to her bachelorette celebration. It became worse when I read their earlier texts. She told him it would be their night because she will be with me tomorrow. She teased him by claiming he could get her again if he tempted her. Then came months-old texts. Their friendship got flirty from pals. When he asked about her figure, she showed him. Even though I thought she was at work, they planned a meeting. His following message asked if they should have done it, and she said yes. In little than an hour, I went from loving my marriage to being heartbroken and wanting revenge. I planned to read the 6 screenshots of their harshest texts during the vows. Like what she did to me, it would be awful. I used NyQuil to pass out after removing all evidence of acquiring the texts. She left the next morning. Even though she left me a handwritten message saying she was leaving early to get her makeup and hair done, I understood. None. Imagine being dressed up for a great day when someone publicly brands you a cheater. What a reliable way. I was resentful. No need for an apology, and I didn't miss her. I was done with her because I couldn't believe how much I loved her despite her relationship. I worked hard to look good, smell great, and had flawlessly groomed hair. I convinced myself it was worth it despite my reservations. I pondered alerting my father about my plans, but I didn't want him to discourage me or notify others. That same time, my best friend texted me a minute to ask whether I was attending. He greeted me professionally outdoors, but I was thinking about cufflinks. Despite being unsure, I imagined he was missing one. I could see he was embarrassed and astonished. He said it may have snagged on something and gone lost. I asked for a thorough investigation of his match in case it was mine. His heart raced and he perspired heavily. I claimed to know nothing, thinking watching him act that way was funny. What occurred after you showed me the cuff link? That matched my pocket one perfectly. I stared him down for a few torturous seconds. I tried not to hit or shout. He asked about my health, suspecting a problem. I assured him everything was okay since I was being married today, snapping out of it and pretending to grin. He trembled after my hard backslap. After some mind-numbing mingling during the grand procession, I approached the place and felt I would never want a normal wedding again. Everything looked ridiculous and useless. I remembered how we met and our time together just before my almost wife walked down the aisle, looking as gorgeous as ever. It was so unfair that I cried. All around me knew these were not happy tears. I was distraught. I managed to contain myself until the celebrant asked me to read my vows. I started reading James and my fiancé's emails and recording the times and dates. My behaviors initially intrigued others, but after hearing me out, they realized they were flirty signals and not worth praising. They started fidgeting and realized that everyone in the building was staring at them, which was incredibly uncomfortable. My husband asked about my phone use and phone content. She told me to stop when I got another text, but I read those awful things. She invited him over because I had left the house, and he made clear statements about wanting to be with her again. As I read those texts, people started whispering and talking, and my fiancé tried to confiscate my phone. My best friend and 5 groomsmen departed abruptly. I was screaming that I had tapes and photographs of their communications and would share them with anybody who wanted. Several departed due of that. I laughed loudly and sarcastically when the celebrant asked whether we were still getting married. My ex was crying in her white dress on her knees at the altar. Her bridesmaids were surprised and unsure what to do. Maybe some of them saw her flirting with him or knew about her affair. The fact that no one rushed to console her was satisfying. I was tired with the show. The whole thing, hammering my mind. I walked outside to check on my best friend. In amazement that he had deceived me, those 5 guys had surrounded him and were yelling and swearing at him. I was done with everything. I hated the circumstance and my racing mind. Now that I got my revenge, I wanted to sleep. I told them to let my best man go since sticking him around was pointless. My almost bride left the event quickly, followed by her bridesmaids who yelled at her. He halted when he saw her in the rearview mirror after jogging 10 yards behind my best man's automobile. They drove away as she entered. When I looked back, numerous wedding guests watched the whole thing. Bereavement therapy was evident. I got cuddles and advice. Even though it seemed weird, they supported me. Additionally, they were no longer her friends. They lost our friends and family support. Even though they relocated out of state, their romance ended quickly. My ex returned to her judgmental parents after a year of cohabitation. What a waste of time. After all this craziness, she asked me out again, and I called her mad. I'm fine that my best friend never contacted me. I'm done being friends with him, thankfully my family. I was encouraged by friends and stopped from despairing. Despite not dating again, I'm considering asking a nice lady out since I like her. Though it's crazy to think someone will commit their life to me, my ex made me wary, so I now approach people warily. I tell them about my past and ask them anything to make sure they understand. A second narrative. 10 years have passed since my marriage. As our anniversary approached, I realized how lucky I was to have found someone to spend so long with. We were best friends and knew everything about one another. Our love may have been strong since we thought our zodiac signs were soulmates. Despite knowing her sign was associated with adultery, I believed her.
10 years after 3 years of marriage, we had a child. My wife was ready for her biggest raise before summer break after years in the same job. I felt like I had discovered true love and that she would always back me. The night she arrived home with her raise, she seemed astonished and anxious. Her expression suggested she was preoccupied with something else. She giggled when I asked whether she had trouble believing in herself, but I could see she wasn't convincing me. I thought there was more, but she said she was simply pleasantly surprised. I didn't even consider cheating then. She made a strange statement about how lucky she was and how great her job was before entering our bedroom. Really likes her. That caught me off guard. She must have known her comment sounded weird. We celebrated our anniversary the next day. Her supervisor called while we prepared. She excused herself to answer the phone in her office, where she regularly took notes. She had no idea I had sneaked up and picked up their conversation. She thanked him again for the boost, but then things became private. She whispered her thanks and want to spend more time with him. She then asked about the workplace surveillance cameras to avoid getting caught committing crimes and being fired. I started to understand everything. I wanted to burst into the room to tell her I heard everything. I decided to speak during our anniversary party. I had to do something to meet her and complete our divorce. I was convinced she confessed to sleeping in her boss's office. I waited outside the door, unmoving for her to open. She appeared worried when she saw me standing so close, and like nothing was wrong. I faked smiling. We left when she requested if I ready. I felt like a zombie as she started smoking, since she does so when worried. She kept checking on me during the trip, as if to see if I had heard her. When we arrived, I turned to her and said, "Let's go celebrate our 10-year marriage." I spoke robotically without anger. She knew I heard them but didn't tell me. Since my parents gave us some alone time on our anniversary, our 7-year-old daughter sat inside scorching while I graciously met our friends and family. After visiting our daughter and family, my wife scratched and was uncomfortable. She insisted she was okay, but people saw her crimson face and swarmed around her, saying she looked bad. Everyone noticed her heavy perspiration. This was mine. Statement-making opportunity. I stood forward and announced my employer and wife were cheating. Everyone was shocked. She fainted. Our family and friends were kind and swiftly helped her by laying a cold cloth to her forehead and fanning her. The usual approach. She felt mortified and couldn't talk when she woke up. I asked which house she meant when she stated she wanted to go home. She sobbed and ran to the bathroom. I took my kid home after thanking everyone. My wife made 2 failed calls after bedtime. I already was. I was asleep when additional people called, so I missed it. I was pleased to find the truth and expel her. Later, I learned that my wife was permitted to stay with a relative, but that was not the only change. I emailed their HR department about the situation. I received a response within a week indicating they appreciated the information and had taken action. After that, my wife called. She called me a lowlife for damaging her employer and her lifelong careers. After 10 years of hard work for her and our child, I called her a lowlife for ruining our marriage. How could she be our child's mother role model and do that? Time? After the divorce, our daughter started visiting me. The deal, though? I found a woman with children who takes care of me in ways my ex would never have thought to. This is bittersweet since I wasted a lot of time trusting her. Third story, it's hard to believe our friendship ended quickly, but he's now my ex-best friend. Our long-standing relationship has collapsed. We've known each other since high school. I saw him as a brother. My parents considered him their son. We shared houses since our families were nearby. Together we traveled and experienced many beautiful things. I was supposed to be his best man, and he was mine. We shared a lot, helping each other through tough times and discussing life, love, and everything else. He was my true buddy who always supported me and provided me good advice. Losing him hurts so deeply because he was so important to me. Losing him may hurt as much as losing my wife. Losing someone I admired and loss of a true friend is terrible. Only to discover he had lied to me. Despite dating for 7 years, my wife and I have been married for nearly 5. I distinctly remember our first encounter. Love was immediate. Her infectious laugh and piercing blue eyes made her stunning. I was surprised when she accepted to go out with me since she was out of my league. But I fell in love more as we got to know each other. She was enthusiastic about life and serving others. Her warmth and care made me love her even more. I loved being married to her and always felt our marriage was great. I kept my husbandly honesty. I ate healthily and took care. I always remember our milestones and anniversaries. I listened as she said. Because she was essential to me, I grew interested in her life but also gave her space and avoided neediness and clinginess. Cleaning and housework were my duties. As much as she did. I thought our bedtime was great too. I always showed her how much I loved her like a spouse. I tried dating her after we married. Definitely never took her for granted. Despite everything, I don't know what went wrong. I frequently wondered if there was anything else I could have done. Did I overdo? Did she think I was easily won? Have I lost her respect? Hard to say what happened. No, our marriage wasn't flawless. We argued occasionally but never over serious matters. The trouble started with my best friend's split with his fiancée. He was upset and struggled. My wife suggested going out for coffee to talk to him after I told him about it. Provide a woman's perspective. I told her it was okay. She was my best friend's friend. Because he was near me, he and his girlfriend would hang out and go on couples getaways. I didn't think much of it because their friendship appeared okay. He briefly complimented my wife's attractiveness when we started dating and married. No offensive jokes were made. I didn't mind my wife saying he was gorgeous at any time. Even thinking about it, I don't see any signs that they're more than buddies. My wife looked odd after the coffee party. She was furious he didn't get more. Previous partner. I tried to soothe her by saying he's young and will get better, but she seemed angry. She stated he needed more time, that any woman who marries him is lucky, and that his ex-girlfriend was silly for breaking up with him. The chat, which I may not have recalled, showed that my wife was evasive and giving few specifics. I didn't find it weird at the time. As his buddy, I believed she was protecting him, and I would have done the same. After that night, my wife acted strangely. She became unclear about her goals despite not acting suspiciously. She gave imprecise answers when she said she was running an errand. Meet a pal. Her behavior didn't warrant an inquiry, and I'm not controlling. I didn't think much of it then. It didn't seem weird. My friend was acting weird too, but I blamed his recent separation and depression. It seemed odd that he kept rejecting my hangout requests. He said he was busy without explanation. He looked different when we met, and I saw him less and less. It's hard to explain, yet he seemed less relaxed. He sent me a message asking me to attend his home to discuss and resolve issues. I visited without suspicion. He answered the door when I knocked. I tried to joke with him, but he ignored me. After that, he invited me into the living room, where my wife was sitting on his couch. Perhaps I didn't understand what was occurring, but fear set in. When I entered, she started crying, and he told me there was no easy way to communicate their love and want to be together. I felt like I wasn't there. I was so surprised. They both apologized, saying they still loved me and were sorry for what occurred when I did. Center myself. They stated it was an emotional moment, not anything they planned. They fell in love despite realizing they were wrong. Their vows had not involved physical contact. Honestly, I don't know if that's true or if it matters anymore in our current condition. After that, they've sent me many SMS apologizing. My wife has been visiting me less and asking how I'm doing, but I ignore her even though she says she loves me. I didn't ask where she was going when she left our home. Next, one of my. Upon leaving, she moved in with my old pal, according to friends. It was barely months earlier. She picked up some goods at the house a few days ago. She asked to chat briefly despite my efforts to avoid her. She then stated that she is trying to conceive with my ex-friend. She told me so we could handle it throughout our divorce. She felt she had to tell me personally because I deserve to know. Hearing how rapidly she's moving hurt. We planned to have children, but she wanted to wait until she was 30. I must monitor him now because he will father her children. I'm seeking your advice. I don't know how to manage her pregnancy. I'm jealous because he's living the life I desire with her, and I think it'll never end. Sadness ends once it happens. I also know this pregnancy ends our relationship. No reconciliation would be possible afterward. A therapeutic recommendation was explored. I doubt she'd be interested considering she's so focused on him. No idea how to tackle this either. How could I overlook that they both done this? I don't understand why she left while we were fine. I'm beginning to distrust everything. If you can't trust your best buddy, everything seems fake and life is a hoax. Your wife, or even a hard-won marriage. Life is unfair sometimes. Since my wife left, I've been better for 3 days. I'm thinking forward. I'll share a few things even if there's not much to tell. I'm contacting my ex-friend to see how she feels about the breakup. Despite not knowing if I'll learn anything, I should try. I spoke with one lawyer, but I need to find a good one. I'll search harder next week. My friends and family gave me some ideas, thankfully. I'm sure I'll start counseling shortly, but when is unknown. I know I need expert help since my mental health is poor. Right now, I'm thinking about writing my ex-wife and friend. Many of you asked why I didn't confront him after learning of their affair. It shocked me that I never informed them how much they hurt me, despite their seeming indifference. Many of you gave advice on how to handle it. I'll make some changes to make the place more comfortable till I go. I'll keep myself busy, but the hardest part has been evenings when I'm alone and everything is quiet, like now. Update: many of you suggested I contact my ex. For convenience, I'll call my friend's ex-girlfriend EF to see whether she knew about his romance with my wife. I tried to contact her, but she merely confirmed EF's explanation for their breakup. I asked whether she saw anything weird, or thought he was dating someone else before their separation. No worries, she said. I trust her because she seems astonished they got together and doesn't seem to be lying. In my last essay, I suggested writing my wife and EF a letter for closure. Many of you advised me against it. The letter was intended for me but never sent. You were probably right that they wouldn't care, since there wasn't much. Need to provide it. I chose an attorney a few weeks ago. I trusted him to protect my interests and resolve the divorce properly because he came highly recommended. I filed for divorce last week. I knew it was necessary despite the day's difficulty. Though I know it's impossible, I still dream of her returning and admitting her mistake. Unfulfilled fantasies cannot define me. I felt better before filing for divorce, but thereafter I felt worse. I'm becoming more depressed. I considered personal therapy as you suggested, but now isn't the time. Good thing I began a new project at work, and being active has helped with my life changes. As strange as it seems, I don't want to improve. At the end of a marriage, sadness is typical. Despite many of your requests, I did not pursue the alienation of affection lawsuit. My lawyer stated that there are no guarantees and that it will be difficult. I don't care about money, so winning wouldn't alter anything. I want to finish this quickly so I can start afresh. Other than that, my wife called me to ask to meet and talk after obtaining her paperwork. Nor have I answered, and I doubt I will. She probably couldn't tell me anything I'd like to hear, and I don't believe we can say anything else. My activities include jogging more, reading, yoga experimentation, and meditation. Though I didn't like meditation, yoga was pleasant. Work has been a good distraction. I'll put off studying French because I have other things to do. I resumed fishing, just keeping myself occupied to keep my thoughts in check when I'm alone. I removed several souvenirs of my marriage for house remodeling. A body cushion on my bed helped me relax unexpectedly. I'm in the guest room for now, but I may return to the main bedroom. It doesn't matter since I still have trouble sleeping. That's all. Do it. I've been reading about failed relationships, and a YouTube video with site recommendations was helpful. The guy in the video says you should move on after a breakup soon. It changed my view of my wife. She might not be the one if she could accomplish all this. He also had great memory insights, and accepting that a loved one is simply a memory. That's all for now. Not the most thrilling or joyous update, but that's life.